Circus parades are always fun, so have one today. Who would you like to be? A lovely white circus pony, prancing and dancing in time to the music? A clown making funny faces as he hobbles along? Or a lion tamer looking brave and strong? Make your choice and be ready. It's time for the circus parade to begin.
Good evening, folks. 30 seconds to showtime. Grab your seat, leave your drinks to the bar. Hold your breath, put your hands together. We present Stanford Bay's finest star. Who has danced with the Mariner Kitty? Who has dined with the Queen of Vermont? We trace the voyages of Sinbad. Corresponded with the men who can't lose the tapis. C'est pas la même chose que la vache qui rit. Les vaches font mon ami.
How's it going, everybody? Hey, Jeff. So they can hear me, but they can't hear you. It's not too late, folks. Run for your lives.
There we go. How's that? So I can see my stuff right there. My computer started to be weird. But once again, hey, my name is Jeff with the G. Live theater online, everybody. So right here, I've got the amazing and wonderful Rob Romeo from Odd World Danger Show. How's it going, Rob?
Doing well. How are you all? Cool.
Yeah, hey. There we go. So why not Z01D or Zoid? Why not Zoid, maybe? I don't know. It's in the chat. Glad to have you. You're the best, as my Streamlabs like to say. So
that's Ray, I think. What's up, Ray? Hi.
Hey. All right. Cheers. All right. So this whole idea is like we're just going to have a conversation about something like that. We met a couple of weeks ago for the first time. Although even though we have a mutual friend who's been singing your praises. Cheers.
Little praises
for a while now. But we had a chance to meet this couple of weeks ago when I was in New York. So really great meeting you. And Ultraviolence, what's up? Good to meet you as well. Thank you for being part of the shows. But we had a great time hanging out and running around the boardwalk in Coney Island, and so it's really cool to have you. It
was quite a wonderful token day on Coney Island for sure.
Was it? I don't know. I understand what that means.
It was just a very good, like the kind of day you would want to throw together. Being involved in like the sideshow people, and then paying too much money to go on rides that are just enough wonderful to capture the magic of what that place is.
It's yeah, it was my first time in New York, generally, period, and of course Coney Island, and was that was actually that was the theme of my weekend. All weekend was basically it's like perfect weather, walk right into everything. There was like no waiting for me like all weekend for anything. It was kind of cool. It was really weird, but it was a lot of fun hanging out with you and everybody and just like the whole sideshow crew out in County. Like it was like wow, I get it now. It's like I'm here in Texas. Like nobody outside of like a handful of us, like all the other sideshow people are like just. I mean, Texas is just so huge. There's no concentration of anybody, so it's just really
Right.
hard to get. It's hard enough to get like four of us together, much less like what
A
the
scene or whatever. Yeah.
much less the 10 or so people that were there when we hung out. So it's one of those weird kind of so it's kind of nice. I really liked it. So for people who may not be aware of who you are and what you do, so what so who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm me.
So,
Um,
good
I
night,
I'm a
everybody.
I don't know, man. I'm some things. I'm a variety artist. So I started out as a sort of a hack kids party magician, which I still am. I still make a decent amount of my living on that, but I guess the last couple of years I've been more out as a full-time performer, notwithstanding COVID times. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've been drinking from the cup the last 4 years or so is when I started doing sideshow stuff. So I've gone the gamut from uh, I do knife throwing and bullwhip cracking to starting to do some of the fun self-harm things that are rather uh,
Dumb.
uh, personal and sideshow. And yeah,
Yeah.
um, I also like to include some sort of dirty magic and clown stuff in what I do. I often am found performing music, so I sing and play a number of instruments. I play accordion or tenor banjo, guitar, um, and just I really can't say that I'm one thing. I really want to find a balance of what I am and who I work with. But I think variety is at the heart of it. But I really attach to sideshow stuff because it's pretty visceral. And even coming from a magic background, I always had a skepticism about that ornate box with the Chinese lettering on it. Like, what? Why the fuck are you carrying around an ornate box with Chinese lettering? I kind of feel like the objects that you're working with need to feel real, and I guess that magic strategy sort of transferred into the sideshow world really easy because you are presenting presumably real and or visceral things. Um, yeah, so that's a lot of what I'm doing. I guess the last year or so, since I've been hunkered down, things got a lot weirder. Started manufacturing weapons, and then created a whole workshop, and now I'm melting metal and blacksmithing and doing all sorts of crazy things.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, we a mutual friend. I know, yeah, because I know some of the people who've gotten some of your pieces of work, which they've really loved. So kudos on you for at least finding another avenue, especially during this time. As all of us went into like kind of like, all right, cool, can't do shows now, what sort of things. And some people went on to do real life jobs. Other people went into blacksmithing. I learned how to do the internet. That's what I did because why not? I can't make anything. I can make coffee. I can make a joke or a rating. That's for sure. But I can't make stuff. But yeah, so that's why I started doing all this sort of stuff, and then the idea of just chatting with people from across the world about things. That's what I like doing. So, and a lot of other people who may not know who you are going, "Oh, hey, that Rob guy is really cool." Whenever you guys make it to whatever town somebody may be watching it from, they go, "Oh yeah, I kind of watched this weird internet show, and this guy was on there, and so let's go check him out." So that's the idea. Or the idea is keeping your name out in the world. That's why I do it. So
Yeah,
keep people name
the
keep your
internet
name out
is
in the
far
world.
from the internet's far from unnecessary. We all have to tangle with it, even if we don't love it. It's just sort of a fact of life these days.
Oh, it's pretty much it's going to be part of like for performers. The internet's now part. Has to be part of your skill set at least a little bit. or at least knowing somebody who can help you do all that, because that's just the way
Hmm.
the world is. I don't think, while like digital and virtual shows may become less, there will still always exist, because people from like me, I watch shows like that performed like in things like I've watched some really cool virtual shows that are based out of England and like Africa and stuff like that that
Hmm.
I would never have had the chance to watch, but because of the world, I had the opportunity to see some performers I probably never would have otherwise. So
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because at the beginning of everything, when I first started producing shows and putting events together, um, Facebook was invaluable to that. It was a tool that we could aggregate lots and lots of people to. But over the course of time, titties in danger and anything remotely uh, with an edge became impossible to do without monetizing in a heavy degree. And then sometimes they wouldn't even let you do that. So it's been much more restrictive through the customary like social media pattern that we came out of in the last number of years. But it's taking careful consideration to figure out what's next. How do you put the right amount of people in a room, and how do you put the right eyes in the room, and how do you pick the room, and how do you put the eyes in the room?
that's the thing that's always constant, because stuff shifts all the time. Like right now, Zoom's the thing when trying to do stuff, but it has its limitations. And then there's other people using other formats to create live shows, which are also good, but they also have their limitations. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to be progressing. I think in a lot of ways, who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody saying like the internet, it'll still be invaluable. How like for the longest time radio was so invaluable to live shows, because when they said radio was going to kill live shows, it didn't. It just became just a marketing tool for the live shows. I think the internet's kind of be like that, but it's really cool about like, all right, cool, here's a bit I can throw up someplace, so like, all right, I know I'm going to be in LA or wherever. I'm just going to like just inundate all the local producers and like Facebook groups about, here's a stunt I do. I'm going to be in LA next week. Come see the crazier stuff that I can't put up. And so I think
Right.
that's still going to exist. And so it just it's just one of those things that on one hand we have to become our own PR agent for all of that, unless you've got somebody who's willing to do that for you, which is cool. But we're poor sideshow performers. We can't afford PR people.
I'll tell you what, though, we've been freaking talking about it because it's a lot, and to do what we've done, because like we've done a couple tours, we've been out for a month and change at a time doing nights and doing the whole danger act, driving in
Yeah.
6 hours and then showing up and staying straight enough to throw knives around a person was takes a toll on you, and to do it for bars you know um, is something that it's an uphill battle to even find the reason to say it's worth it. So like I'd really love to have a little bit of the pressure in terms of finding the right places and spaces taken off of me to some degree. So we have been looking into the idea of at least like getting familiar with some of the right agents to get things moving, just because it's a whole lot of work. Akita's a saint. She does like tons of graphic design work for the project. She puts together snippet videos. She helps me get press kits together to send to prospective venues and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so much work, and when you're fighting censorship standards too to get it all out into the world, there's a whole lot there. And I feel like there might be someone that knows a better avenue than I do to find the right places for this, but I'm open to doing it both ways. It's been on our plate that we've been thinking, you know what? It's really, really hard to do all of this and focus.
I know it's fair. It's I've been leaning heavier into that aspect of doing stuff, because it's one of those. I've got nothing but time. I've had nothing but time for the past year, and like learning how to do all the internet stuff is finding the ins and outs as far as the best ways, what's the best things for certain stuff a lot of times. And there are certain formats like Vimeo allows you to do ticketed events, and do stuff. And you can almost put just about anything on Vimeo. The only issue with Vimeo is like there's like almost no social media. There's no social engineering with SEO. So there's no you have to know what you're looking for on Vimeo to get to it. You're not just going to find stuff randomly as far as you just type in a thing and suddenly it's there. No, you have to go, all right, cool. I want to go look at the Oddworld Danger Show stuff. Let me go find their page on Vimeo. I'm not going to find it randomly. And so, but
Yeah.
a lot of performers doing like Danger Acts or even some of the burlesquers have used it pretty well, and I use it as a backup for some of the shows I do because of some of the copyright issues with some of the music I play. Totally legit, but because all that stuff is automated now, if I try
Yeah,
to
it just pings
broadcast
it.
something,
Yeah.
it just automatically pings it. I'm just going. I just don't have time to spend like the 4 or 5 days trying to fight every week as far as some acts and like acts I think would hit me don't hit, and then other acts that I don't think will hit. And I'm just going.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna do it live here, and then I'll put my backup on Vimeo, and Vimeo never has an issue. So people can watch the old episodes. They can also watch these old episodes that are on this thing too, even though it's also on my. We're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. It's my first time doing this, like broadcasting other multiple streams. So hopefully we'll
Oh,
get
doing. Oh,
a lot of
nice.
people. So yeah, it's my first. Like I thought
I,
about doing it for a while, but I went, you know what, I like this because we're just talking, so it makes it easy. I don't have to worry about any sort of copyrights unless you start singing some weird song, and then I'm gonna have to go. Duh! But otherwise,
I would
no,
never
it's
do that.
not at all. Uh, so anybody's watching the show, because obviously we have people watching. Thank you for turning in live, and if you're watching later, also thank you for watching later. If you have questions for myself or for Rob here, please drop them in the chat. As I said, I'm on multiple formats, and I've got a thing supposedly it'll pop up in the chat regardless of how you're watching this. Supposedly. Uh, Otherwise, we'll just keep talking about whatever. I don't know. What's the newest project you're working on as far as like a makery sort of thing? You've got something new in the works, or something you've been trying to figure out,
Makery.
or
Makery. I've been working on a series of sideshow props as my latest run. It was sort of inspired by I passed by Hot Todd Lincoln's spot in Baltimore on the way down to
yeah.
a wedding in San Antonio that I was taking the bus on, and we stopped over for a visit, and he happened to have had um, a bunch of old flat bar that he had turned round. And he had no use for most of it. There's only so many paperweights a strongman really fucking needs ultimately. Like as someone that's done some of the strong work in the past, it just turns into this pile, and it's a nice photograph when you've got a big fat pile, but after that, it's just a trip hazard really. So I guess he was willing to offload some of it to me, and I've been starting to rebend that stuff into new items. So some throwing knives have come out of it. I started making some fire torches, a couple of other pieces so far from that project. Really, the makery, I think the next thing is I've been collecting a lot of oddities, and I'm working on a show that includes a bit more of a cabinet of curiosity vibe. And I was thinking of creating a literal cabinet to enclose said curiosities, and the entire show's worth of content is open and visible throughout, and pieces are brought out one at a time to be explained and discussed throughout the night as part of the
Oh,
evening.
that's a good way to go. That's how like that's some old school shit right there. With like literally like some guys would show up like with literally a trunk they'd open up and go, and here's the weird, here is
Mhm.
Napoleon's penis or whatever they had, and talk about the thing, and then occasionally bring out a prop that they would do stuff. A lot of it's just
Mhm.
talking. It's not a bad. That's a good gig. Hmm. Maybe
Some
we'll
of them
talk about it.
are pieces that are specifically like objects with stories, but some of it I just assume will also be interesting subjects that blend into these objects, whether we're talking about odd science or medical malfeasance or some ancient horrors or alchemy or any such topic. that we sort of have this cadence, but as referenced by the things that I've got in my cabinet.
No, that sounds very very cool. It's like maybe like I'm really intrigued by that. That's now like me. I'm just going. God, that's oh, I would love like it would be completely different. But the idea of just having the traveling trunk of oddities and sitting there and basically
Mhm.
talking about bits and then doing a stunt or two and then going back and talking about stuff. I really like that a lot. That's
My plan is
uh,
also to have a second case that would be my snake oil pitch, and I'd have some merch items that one could procure, but also tonics and all sorts of fun things in the box that one could buy as talismans or any sort of useful thing. The snake oil is really interesting. It, in fact, does no fewer than 30 things, but it's absolutely not fucking to be used as a personal lubricant. Do you hear me? Don't rub it on your stuff. Rub it on your credit
that.
card, sure, but not your junk. No.
What about somebody else's junk?
Do we like this person?
Yeah.
Don't rub it on the junk.
Good to know. Good to know. I will not do this
I've got a
then.
question for you. You were talking
Yeah,
tech, okay?
yeah, yeah. We'll talk tech.
What do you think? What do you think is a way that would be effective to get eyeballs in rooms? Is it paid advertising on any of the existing social media platforms, but just keep it PC enough? Is it working in newer stuff? Because I know a lot of the social media functionary pieces keep you on that social media. They involve you checking in periodically with people on that medium. They're not
Yeah,
generally designed to funnel you into a physical space. So usually you end up being the role of the advertiser when you're trying to get someone out. Um,
yeah,
what do
kind
you
of, yeah.
think are some cool ideas in the entertainment space to try and bring people into rooms?
Like into live rooms or into internet rooms?
Live rooms.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding live room. So, how to funnel people to go from online to going to real life? That's a good. That's it's one of those things. I think it's not one thing. I think it's the way because the great thing about the internet, the fact is that everybody who has any slight interest in anything has access to whatever that sort of thing is. The problem is that dilutes interest so much that it's hard to focus. Like in the day of three channels for TV and stuff like that, it's really easy to funnel things. Or the 15, radio channels. So it's really, but now when there's, literally millions of different ways to interact. So in a lot of ways, not only do you have to do kind of targeted advertising, which can be done, um, it just takes a minute to figure out how you want to do targeted advertising, whether it's through we'll use Facebook as an example. It's just an example. Facebook, don't me. Um, you really have to look as far as what the market is going to be sending to. Now we're broadcasting live on there, so please don't. I mean, anyway,
Does the internet mind if I smoke?
you can smoke. I don't mind. So you're in your own domicile, so you're allowed to do what you wish. That's
But I'm
according.
also
I,
in the internet.
you are in the
We're
internet.
inside the internet. I just don't want to be a bad house guest.
No, you're fine. I
Okay.
don't care if you smoke. Uh, so in a lot of ways, on how to do this right, as far as trying to bring people into the venues and the going see stuff. So a lot of it's a lot of it's targeted advertising. A lot of it, because that makes it a little bit easier. That's going to catch the casual person. Like they're going, all right, cool. I kind of want to do something weird tonight. Oh, there was a weird Facebook ad that popped up my thing when I was looking at stuff. I'm going to go do that. Or hit two is you got to be kind of involved at least tangentially with whatever Facebook groups I've noticed have been really big with like just that's where people are hyping. Ultraviolence is offended. I'm sorry, ultraviolence. It happens. It's Rob. I don't know.
What were they
Uh,
offended by?
you're smoking.
Where'd we lose you? Oh,
Yeah.
all right. I'll make you feel better at the end. I promise.
Okay. Ooh. Uh, uh, sorry, that's gonna be a weird ass blow off later. Anyways, so yeah, so if you want to get people in the rooms, it's weird. It's gonna be weird advertising. It's gonna be targeted advertising because you have to get really targeted. You can't do blanket stuff. So it's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna say
Specificity
police.
sounds like it's key here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because everything has to be everything because everybody's interests are varied. You have to laser focus on these small groups of things for it to be hit. You can't just throw shit out in the wind and hope it catches. And then a lot of it also comes down to word of mouth. So it's like, all right, cool. Like you're gonna like if you're you like hit the locals up, going, hey, it lets you know. Going, all right, like for example, you came to Austin. You go, hey, I'm coming out. Like you go, hey, Jeff, I'm coming to Austin. I'm gonna do shows. Like, all right, cool. Then by being a good friend and who's really into stuff, because I want you to make money. That's we all would. Us as performers want to make sure we all make money. I'm gonna hit up all the people I know that might be into the scene to come out and see the show, and then and so on and so forth. So it's like it's word of mouth and very targeted advertising to be the best way to do so. So it's like old school, new school sort of way. It just but yeah,
Mhm.
just throwing random like blanket ads is not going to do it anymore because people aren't going to see that. It just people just won't see it anymore because it's like going, oh yeah, it's just
Also, the baseline
CBS
amount of
show.
money that you're throwing into a generalized ad is going into the same pool that everyone else's generalized ads are going into,
Right.
and you might
So
be a lowest bidder essentially, which will put you in front of fewer people. Yeah.
yeah. So really, Lily, it's all about just laser. It's you just have to really get in targeted marketing and spending a minute
Mhm.
to figure out figuring out what your audience is in the area if you're traveling. It's like it's like the people used to fly, like the old carnivals would have the guy who would have the lead guys go out like 2 or 3 weeks out in advance ahead just to like laser focus to try to get as many people to carnival when it comes to town then. So it's just kind of a similar way. It's just now we can do it all online.
I'm also
Um,
thinking that over time now, I, I mean, especially considering that we're still dealing with the tail end of a pandemic here.
yeah.
It's my intention. I want to control the environments that I'm in a lot. I really would rather do smaller and more intimate things, which means searching for a pool of 30 to 50 instead of looking for 100 people to get into that room, because I can space them properly if I need to. I can bring them in where I need to. So some of the things that you could show someone are really not suited for 200 eyeballs. Um, they work really well with many fewer people
Well,
and
yeah.
being nearer to that. Um, so I think I'm going to be trying to make my events as I do them a little further off the beaten track. Maybe you have to find out where the venue is by purchasing your ticket, and find out a little more about where the show as you follow certain steps or something to that effect. Go more into the speakeasy genre, I suppose.
I can see
I
that,
think
or running like yeah, or just doing things like all right, cool, like are doing like the bookstore tour or something like that, where you can only have so many people in the room anyway. So like that's places that just don't lend themselves. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can go about that, but you can still play up. Even with doing like the laser focusing for internet ads, you can still play that up very, very well. So it's very easy. In fact, a weird sort of way is there's a ways to do like you could probably do something with like augmented reality, which is a tech thing where you can actually play with people to kind of almost all but play like an internet game where they win by showing up at your show, and you can control how many people get there because of how it's set up. There's different ways to do it. I don't know, we can talk later. I don't
there's
know.
also some interesting conversations in crypto to be had on the subject.
Same different. Well, yeah, that's the same sort of thing. Yeah. Or like when I was what was it? They did a kind of a thing back in the late '90s, early 2000s, where literally like some band like some I want to say it was like a 9 inch like a 9 inch nails record or something like that, where they literally would drop a USB randomly off someplace, and you plug it into your computer and it would give you all this information to go to a thing, and then from that thing it would let you go to this other thing, and it all in to go to like the record release party with 9 Inch Nails. I think it was 9 Inch Nails. It may have been somebody different, but somebody of that level. To the only way you could go to this record release party was to follow all these weird steps, like all like a weird treasure hunt. That
Yeah, I
might be a
wouldn't want to
fun
make
thing
it
to do.
impossible, but I would. I wouldn't want to make it impossible, but I would like to make it alluring if I could.
No, but I mean, I'm just like an extreme example,
Yeah,
but it's literally
I'd
like
love for a lean in moment where the person actually has to buy into that extent to find themselves at a place of reward and to make it appropriate to their efforts. I would make sure that my venues were very interesting and my experiences were immersive.
well,
That's
I
sort of
think yeah, but partnering up with like this, because like every major city has at least a couple of speakeasy style bars. So I think like
Mhm.
leaning heavy to talk to some of those places. I mean, there's like 10 here in Austin alone. Uh, so like trying to do something like that, with like partnering with like a cool bar like that to do stuff with, which lends well to that credit. Or like, hey, you want to see the Rob Romeo show? Well, you gotta go see the Floppy Disk Repair Company to get details, which is the name of one of our speakeasies here. It's called the Floppy Disk Repair Company. Um,
That's great. I like that.
yeah, no, it's like, and like, yeah, you drive by the building, and the building does say Floppy Disk Repair Company. So if you don't know, you don't know. And if you do, you still go in, and like the first room is set up like an old like junky like electronics like store, and you have to figure out on how to get behind there, which isn't terribly difficult. Everything's there to kind of cue in, like figure out how to go. All right, cool. I'm gonna go like that. What's the password? And then there's the thing that you can look at to see what the password is. It's not like you're sitting in the lobby or something for hours. I think like when I was in New York, me and Keita were walking by someplace in Manhattan that was like a pawn shop. She goes, "Yeah, no, that's just a speakeasy. There's an actual bar in the back." I go, "Huh? Well, we got to
That's
get
awesome.
someplace." I kind of wanted to go there just because I like that sort of. That'd be amazing. I like that. I like
There's
those
one that I
kinds of
like. It's a
concepts.
little bit blown up now, but there's one in New York called PDT, which I shouldn't be talking about because it's called Please Don't Tell. But fuck it, if they are all over the internet, I don't care.
Yeah,
But it's at a place called Criff Dog. It's a little like a lower story, 3 steps down hot dog joint, like a hole in the wall.
yeah.
And you go into the phone booth and you dial 0. The wall pops out, and you're in an underground speakeasy with a jackalope and all sorts of fun things and an absinthe slow and the whole thing. So yeah, pretty
That
awesome.
sounds that. My next.
And they actually have a hole in the wall, like a hot dog glory hole, where you could order hot dogs from next door and they just pass it through the wall to serve it.
That's amazing. I will definitely hit that up next time in New York because that sounds so awesome. And I was, yeah, no, Rob said it was cool for me to come. He told everybody.
I've been
No,
kicked
that
out of
sounds.
Finer.
That's true. He probably will again. So that's fair.
I actually remember
So.
one of the times we got kicked out of somewhere. That was fun.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Not proper kicked out, but it was close enough. We were hired to do a charity event. They asked for burlesque. I guess they had watched the movie once or twice. Um, and they wanted, we put it together a bill that was some live music and burlesque and sideshow. And it was a hair loss, medical hair loss charity. And they didn't quite tell us that the room was mixed ages. And we went on after the Frozen sisters sang "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" And we tried to tone it back as best we could, but we were only asked to stop after that first set that we did. So we had been using what was the bridal suite in this castle on Long Island, like a nice venue. And I had a photographer there as well because I was trying to document it a bit to get some more such business. And after we were pretty much dismissed, I had sent everybody upstairs to just do their thing for a little while. And it turned into just this burlesque boudoir photo shoot in the bridal suite. One of them was taking like full nudes in the bathtub, and then the event organizers came in, and things got really tense. And yeah, I guess if you're getting kicked out of castles, you're doing something right. The photos were great, by the way.
Oh, of course they had. I mean, you got to make it worthwhile. I mean, that's. yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. Um, so far I have not been, but like mostly for Wes, so, like we generally do the weird bar gigs. Occasionally we'll do stuff like for some reason like we get like local like because like weird local music festivals. And they go, yeah, we want to bring you guys on in between stuff. We're going, okay. I mean, we can like do stuff and do stuff proper because like the Trash Fire Sideshow, the group I'm part of, and but nothing like to that level. Although we've been told we can't perform places because they knew what we would do, but I haven't been we got preemptively kicked out of places. Uh,
I
like
think the problem
going,
existed where I was just far too weird for the markets I started in. Like I was doing more um, sort of private for hire gigs and Gatsby-esque business, but I always just had a little bit more grit in me than that. And um, some of the kinds of it just I also people have no idea what burlesque is. So if you're in the business of working with burlesque artists and you hook them up with gigs and like the gentleman hired the two burlesque dancers because their wife liked burlesque, but then they showed up to the Hamptons house and did one act each and then got paid extra to go home. Uh, after they were paid pretty well to be there in the first place. Just because they read the room wrong and someone got offended. It's just there's a lot of pretty prude people out there.
no, yeah, I work a lot with burlesquers too. One of the people that works with Trash Fire, she's a pretty well renowned burlesque artist who's totally slumming it with us. Uh, but she likes drinking with us. I think that's just how it started. Uh, but but yeah, it's like literally, it's I've seen it happen before. Like people go, "Oh yeah, like let's do the thing," and like usually time like I think 90% of the time is just like dude goes, "Yes, my wife loves this sort of thing." Then I cheered for the woman, and my wife got upset because I cheered for the woman, and then that's where that ends. That's usually what I see happening. But I don't know. I agree that people think they understand what burlesque is and they don't. Like either they think of the movie or they think of the weird old like they go, I remember Betty Page, and then that's what they think of those two things for as being burlesque when really has little to do with either of those. But
They also tend to not know what sideshow is either, because it's not terribly common to really understand that sort of thing. Even if you grew up, let's say you were uh, going through your formative years in the 70s or something like that, you wouldn't have necessarily seen the Coney Island of yore, the one that inspired all the stuff that you see today. You would have seen a Fred Trump era, mostly carcassy Coney Island before Dick Ziggins started planting his flag, Um, so I don't think most people have even a generational a memory of what a sideshow is unless they're from the Midwest somewhere where it was really popular for circuses and sideshows to pop up on the traveling circuit in that era. But younger people would have no idea because it's a really dying breed. There's maybe five or
well,
six talented.
10 show
Mhm.
that has on, and then American side. There's the American Circus Sideshow, I think is what they call themselves, which is not quite as old. Is still doing stuff. I think those are the only two like hardcore ones, and there's like little ones that spring up for like here's like 6 dates here, 3 dates there, that sort of stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
may be wrong. Uh, but that's usually what I see, that sort of stuff. For me, I got into sideshow because of Jim Rose. Originally, like that's like a lot of people like of a certain age, like myself at least, because Lollapalooza had the Jim Rose traveling circus. So a lot of
Right.
those we like to call the new age. Well, I always call it the new age of sideshow, which is those like basically starting in the '90s through like about the 2000s, as far as that range, as far as like Jim Rose, Joe Lifto, Enigma, Lizard Man, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
That's a whole level of stuff like that. And half those guys, some of those guys live here in Austin. They just like they retired here. Like literally, Joe Lifto works at a bar like within walking distance of my house.
Really,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
just yeah. I didn't realize it was him until like after until he hassled me a couple of times for like bar stuff, like just like whatever. Like my ID just expired, and so he's going, "Your ID's expired." I go, "Yeah, but as you can see, I'm perfectly of age, and I just like he let me through. And then after a while, we friended on Facebook. Go, hey, you're the guy who giving me shit in the bar. Uh, but no, but yeah, that's like some people see signs, but like a lot of the Joe Schmo, they think it's like Cirque du Soleil. No, it's not like Cirque du Soleil. But yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
this
I get people know what to expect out of it. So
that's definitely a mixed bag. I see some very traditional stuff, and I see some very like, "Hey, try this, motherfucker." Escalated really like the suspension crowd really brings it in
that's
terms of the kinds of
yeah.
things they're willing to do to their bodies. You know.
Yeah, that's a whole that is a whole nother bag of stuff. Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of here, like the Texas area. So like a lot of people like Scabs the clown, the guy I work with. Um, he is weird sideshow clown, but he's really big into that whole suspension stuff, and I think that's how he initially kind of got started. Was he kind of got into that, and then he figured other stuff out, and he went, well, I kind of like doing this and that, and then just kind of built from there. But he does suspension stuff, and we hang out with yeah, the whole weird suspension crowd is a whole nother level, and then like the flow burners have bring a whole nother level to it too. I don't know how much you guys have flow and burner people up there.
No, I don't
You know,
know that I know. I know.
like Burning Man, yeah, like all those people like Burning Man and just like things with like
Oh
hula
yeah.
hoops and like all that like
Mhm.
LED and like a lot of fire people are really like there's a lot of fire people are really into that scene, uh, which is so
Yeah, a
good.
lot of people in the
Like
fire groups are definitely into that stuff for sure.
yeah, which is so fine. It's just like that's a whole nother skill set for some of those people who are into that sort of stuff. When you go into like for like sideshow or going into that traditional stage work of sideshow, there's a whole nother different kind of mindset. But it's good. It all brings all these people together. Always been the opinion anything that's left of center when it comes to popular culture is sideshow in a nutshell because it's the weird shit that people are into that the prudes or the moms will be really nice to be into, but the kids might or the weirdos will be into that stuff, and that's sideshow. So
One of my
traditional
favorite
speaking too.
pieces is I have a pair of duckies. They just happen to share a body, and I like the piece so much because I feel like most of the people that I like would instantly just go, "Oh, that's adorable." But even the people that are on the uptight spectrum are there looking at this thing that's clearly strange and somewhat repulsive to them, but they also can't shake the fact that it's cute. And they have to reconcile that it's both of those things. It's both incredibly strange and pretty fucking adorable. And that's kind of what I love about sideshow, I guess, is you can find enough for somebody to grab onto, and you can break someone's lines if you like to. And um,
Oh,
there's always this fine shelf of humanity and the things one is or isn't willing to either put themselves through or watch.
oh, I completely agree. And like, there's some stuff like I know somebody who gets terrified by the idea of broken glass, and so you do anything involving like with like glass walks or even like glass eating, they're 3 blocks away the moment they hear that. So I get it. Like that makes perfect sense. But in the end, they'll sit there and watch somebody hang from hooks all day long. So it's like really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll watch doing like whether it's like a fire trick or knife throwing or stuff like that, which is also amazing. I actually have I actually got some knives from Jack Dagger that I keep meaning to kind of learn from because I got them at the last Hootenanny, when those were a thing. Hopefully soon. But so that's my next thing. I think I got to figure out a really cool bit to do with like knife throwing. I just don't know what I want to do with it yet.
I mean, I've been throwing professionally for 2 years and I still don't know what the bit is. It's really something that I was expecting to feel differently about, and I don't. Like, I find, to be honest with you, I'm just gonna be like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah, yeah.
probably some backdoor information for a lay audience, but um you kind of always have to look at what's landing when you deal with people and what's paying the bills too, you
Yeah.
know? And for some reason, after I throw knives, I don't feel like it gets the strongest positive reaction from people. I
Yeah.
don't feel it's the thing that makes them happiest or encourages them. I feel as though there's something almost standoffish about it, as though they're almost like, why would you do that? Why would you take it that far? Why? You know, like they start questioning my motive. Or maybe it's that I'm impish the whole way through a show. I'm in this. My character is kind of based in the chaos that has always been the show, so it's just okay. So what the fuck's next? You know, just because it's just got that thing. And when I go from being this happy-go-lucky, going with the flow, trying my best, still kind of clowny character, to focusing down and throwing knives with my full body into a board where a person's standing,
Mhm.
it might make people feel differently about me, and I don't know what it is, but I'm still trying to examine as the act develops, just what it is that'll humanize that act a little more, because it almost feels as though like I'm not the guy at the bar they want to talk to anymore after that sometimes.
Well, that's
And I don't
fair.
know what the fix is for that. It's just an observation that some of the things that we do that are far more innocuous could also get a much more arousing applause to it, or at least buy-in. And I want to make people uncomfortable, but I want to bring them back too. So I need to find the mix on that where um, there's enough pressure and release to make it feel better.
Huh. Could be maybe the knife act could just be that one, like, the hired show sort of thing. All right, cool. You're hiring me on to do the knife act. Just leave it as like its own entity on its own to just be like hired out for like to do a drop in someplace versus like having like as part of your full experience act. It may not be a part of that. It may just be a separate entity unto itself.
It
Uh,
is a great deal of focus, and to be honest with you, some of the times that I do it, I want to make sure that I keep myself at an even keel in a way that I almost feel like limits me. That I'm doing my best to be prepared for that thing so much that it might take away from the comfort that I'm feeling. That I could just be full wild and improvising.
That's
So
or it might be a thing that maybe that might be the thing for out of the gate. Do that first, and then descend from there. You descend into the chaos from that, from focus order into chaos. So you start big, like doing the knife stuff, and then you descend into the weird chaos afterwards. So that way, by the end of the show, you're all like this, and everybody's cool and groovy about hanging out with you afterwards.
I have started moving it from the end of the show to before intermission, so that it's only the first set where I feel that, and then I have the whole second set to be loose and released. Um,
That's also good too,
has
and
been it's been more functional, but I'm examining it, and I know that I'm rather critical of myself, so it's not to say that this is something that everyone needs to know, but
yeah,
um, I just
no,
I feel as though there's a way to do it. I just haven't got it yet.
it could just be that too. So like playing, either a just letting it be its own entity separate from the rest of your quote unquote universe, and just like, all right, cool, like Joe Schmo's like shows hired me on to do a thing, so I'm gonna do my knife throw bit, and that's all I'm doing. Or B is you just figure out where it places in, or you just at one point you're just gonna go, this is the hook, and just like that allows you to kind of play with it back and forth. Sometimes it's just like figuring out the wordplay before you start doing it. uh, Maybe it depends on whatever the stunts you are involved with doing the life throwing may help with that as well, just depending on how you're trying to showcase it. I don't know. It's you've been doing it for 2 years. I mean, like there's a lot of people like it's like what they said with the joke, like what they say, like to be a sword swallower it takes 6 months to learn how to swallow a sword and 6 years to figure out the act. And so you're only 2 years in with doing knife throwing, so you still got like at least four to figure out how to make that work. Or you got it.
There's a point in there somewhere.
Just keep doing it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm getting the rust off, and I'm feeling good about throwing right now. It's
yeah,
really just it's an act that I've been examining because I feel like there's some stride that needs to find its way in still. Like I feel like I feel like bad as fuck when I'm doing the bull whips, because it's being able to land like surgically off of someone else, but also off my own body. An inch from my nose. It's cool, and it lands, and it gives this people this thing in their lizard brain. The whip cracks, and they've got the inevitable one of two reactions of that sort of oh shit or oh
yeah.
daddy, or maybe some combination of both. But like, there's usually some sort of really hard like lizard brain reaction in there, and that's part of its strength, I think.
Well, yeah, and with what you're talking about as far as your character style, the idea of the whips like whipping around very like at least the appearance of almost appearing chaotic really lends to that character very well. So I get that makes sense why that would work really well. So yeah. Uh,
What do you like to do besides the traps?
so I actually do mentalism and magic and that sort of stuff. That's how I got started. When I originally, for background for yourself and people who are watching this, so which were 2021. So on March 10th, 2017, my wife died. I have to start it this way because that's how it matters. And so we spent the last like 5 or 6 years I'd taken care of her, so I had no real life. And so when she died, I didn't know what
Hmm.
to do with myself. She really loved burlesque and stuff like that. So on the 1 year anniversary of her death, I produced a tribute show for her. So I brought in like musicians and burlesque performers and stuff like that to perform and raise a lot of money. And then 2 weeks later, I went to my first Great Southern Sideshow Hootenanny because in that period of year, I made friends with people like Scabs and whatnot, and Nick the Vegan, and they were performing there. So I went, going, all right, cool, I'll support my friends and circus sideshow people in New Orleans, and partying with them sounds like a great time, and it is, and it is. Uh, but I end up like falling in love with the whole idea of the whole world of sideshow. And so a couple weeks, like I don't know, like a month or two later, I decided to produce again to see whether or not I could do it and I could draw on my own name versus my late wife's. And then I went, well, I really like sideshow, so I'm going to produce a like a little sideshow program. And so I brought in some friends that I had made friends with, and like Gigi Deluxe, who I met that year, who's an amazing sword swallower out of New Orleans,
Hmm.
who first time coming to Texas came to do stuff with me. And then I had some other like Jim McKenzie and like Scabs and like a lot of other amazing people. And I really liked it. And I went, this might be something. And so I started producing shows. And then one day, I decided I wanted to get more involved and just like talk. Just I was just kind of the talker. I would like introduce the acts, but I would tell stories in between the acts to kind of help create this narrative. So I didn't just produce a show, but I produced it very specifically as far as how the acts were going to play, and then I created a narrative in between the acts as far as telling these little stories that kind of connect everything. And then one day I decided, well, I want to do more than that. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do in sideshow that didn't hurt. That was the initial thing. I thought, I want to do sideshow stuff, but I don't want to do anything that involves pain. And so I went, oh, you know what? That's part of sideshow is like magic and mentalism is part of sideshow.
Hmm.
Because, or at least some stuff is. And so I said, I'm going to do that. And so I learned a couple of things. I had learned a really great trick from AJ that first year at the Hootenanny, and he sat with me and like talked to me like an extra like 30 minutes about how to make the trick bigger than what he taught me. Like, and I noticed I figured that out. So I wanted to do bigger with that. And then eventually, I think we were doing a photo shoot for the group, and that's when I learned how to do the mousetrap first on my tongue, which it hurts for you guys watching. It does hurt. And then from there, I just went, all right, cool. What else can I do with that? And I started playing with traps, and yeah, I've got really expressive eyebrows, so I can do stuff like that. And then I thought, well, if doing mousetrap, might as well do shots with it. And so I started doing that. I also learned to do things like eat glass. Uh, all the tricks I try to learn with mentalism for the bigger stuff, I try to figure out a sideshow element of it to add I don't want to say legitimacy, but weird stuff. Like I do a weird mouse. I have a rat trap board that I do a mentalism bit with. That if I succeed, nothing goes bad and hurts me. But if I go wrong, I have rat traps on my hands. So either way, the audience is entertained. Because that's the other thing I had to figure out. Things that would have. Like, that's one of the other things I had to think about ways to do something that, regardless of the outcome, the audience is always entertained. So that's why I've been trying to figure that stuff out. And mostly, I'm just. If you ask me what do, I make the joke. I go, I'm a sideshow personality, not a performer, because I like talking about it and getting people involved with it. But I do some stuff. So I enjoy doing those things, and I'm always learning more. But I spend most of my time talking about sideshow and trying to get people involved and like learning the history and all that sort of stuff and trying to convey it, which is what I do every week. And why I do this show is I talk to sideshow performers and we talk about stuff and about what the process is as far as to make it work, or we talk about random stuff. And then I talk to other people too, but yeah, that's basically what I do for in a nutshell. Is I do a lot of talking and convincing people to drink and dumb card tricks mostly.
Sold.
Yeah, bar tricks. I learned a lot of bar tricks because like Harry Anderson's one of my heroes, and learning all his weird bar tricks is a lot of fun.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, that oh man, what's the hour special? His produced video that he did is that Hello Sucker.
So, yeah, Hello Sucker from like 83 or 84, I think. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
good. No, it's amazing. And then I've got the Modern Con Man, which Todd Robbins wrote, which has a lot of more amazing stuff for that sort of stuff too, which I'm really a big fan of. I don't recommend that book. It just no, it's a great book, and it was really fun to when my New York trip was to meet and talk with him as well. So Todd Robbins. So yeah, that's what I do. Is I just talk to people. I convince people to pay. I convince people to come to this show and pay money. That's a lot of what I do. So
I had a fun conversation with Todd Robbins the other day.
oh yeah.
One of the things that had popped up in conversation was I had gone to the Museum of Death in New Orleans, and there are a lot of wonderful things in there. If you want to come back to post-mortem stuff, we can. But the last thing that we happened to see on the way out the door was Letter eating her, and kind of made us go like, "Hey, you want to get a beer?" But Todd greeted the story with some incredulity because he happens to know someone who is in possession of the real letter, not necessarily by scrupulous means.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
And wait a second. That can't be the letter.
Wait a minute.
It was quite a conversation. It went.
Yeah.
Our conversation ranged from new kids on the block to NFTs to Albert Fish. It was quite an hour in the history of man.
That sounds like the various stuff I talked to him about too. And like not those specific things, but that idea of like across the gamut. Yeah, I went to the Museum of Death with the great Orbax and Pepper Klopek from the Monsters of Schlock. That was entertaining. But yeah, so go to the Museum of Death, especially if you can go with some weird sideshow people. Even better. Anyway,
it's wonderful.
You know what? Yeah, it is. You know what? We're just about out of time, man. It's almost been an hour. It's been crazy. See, you were worried. I don't know.
So effortless talking to you.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's what I like. That's what in the end, that's what I do is I talk to people. So everybody, as you can see underneath Rob Romeo, we've got here the Instagram handle. Follow at Oddworld Danger Show on Instagram to keep up with all their deets and dates and stuff like that. They also have a Facebook page. Also, go to their website, oddworlddangershow.com, to keep track of all that sort of stuff as well. I know you guys just about have a live show, which is almost sold out, I think, again. Aren't you guys doing or just the first?
Yes,
we added more seats.
We added a second seating to do a late show, and I think that's just about sold out. But if there's any tickets left, you can find it on on our Facebook page,
Yeah.
Our World Danger
I-
Show, or you can send us a message on Instagram if you find us there. If you want me to make you
Yeah.
anything, talisman, keep demons either away or to attract them if you're into that sort of thing. Just hit me up. I'll make you something personalized if you're a performer or just a person that wants things.
Yeah, we'll talk. So, all right. So, thank you, Rob, for tuning in and being part of the show. I greatly appreciate it. I miss you, man. I know we just met 2 weeks ago, but we're already fast friends. I can't wait to see you down the road. Hopefully, sometime soonish, I'll make my way up that way, or you'll make your way this way, and we'll be cool and groovy. Thank you guys for watching, both live and on tape, as it were. I greatly appreciate you tuning in as well. Um, we got a thing happening afterwards, and we got all cool stuff happening next week. Make sure you follow Carney Show on all the social medias. But next week here on the G Spot is another good friend that I met in New York, Miss Miss Cherry Delight. Will be on the show next week. I know, yeah. She's dropping a new video tomorrow, and so we're going to talk about that amongst with other stuff. So it's going to be a lot of really cool. So everybody be safe, be cool, be groovy. Stay tuned to the channel. There's going to be some fun stuff happening afterwards. And keep drinking, everybody.